time to join us for this overview of this program. Obviously, Katie has been the one that's really been leading this program for us. So I'm going to make some brief introductory remarks just to set the perspective around what exactly the pay per appointment program was designed to do and why we put it together in the first place, and then turn over the majority of the time today to Katie to explain the pay per appointment program, and then also to all of you to answer any questions that you may have about the program. So first and foremost, I want to start with a bit of an overview that I've given on several presentations, the Whitespace webinar, some of the momentum groups that I've been to, and other webinars. But I think it's important that we all understand and align around the purpose behind many of the things that we're doing with marketing. So ultimately, Katie, if you want to advance the slide, what our goal is to say, how do we move from a brand that has a marketing program that can produce $1 million franchises to a marketing program that can produce $4 million franchises. And the core of achieving this ultimately comes back to, go ahead, Katie, ultimately comes back to one thing, and that is making the transition from being 150 small businesses that operate under the same logo to one brand that has 150 locations. And that really means, how do we ultimately work to begin rowing in the same direction, as I'll talk about here in just a minute, because the benefits that come from us being one brand with 150 locations are significant, and the results that we've been able to deliver through the pay per appointment campaign, our program, are just one example of that. So when we look at the 3-year strategy, or the plan, if you will, go ahead, Katie, for what it's going to look like and what we're trying to build. 2018 was really focused on creating a digital footprint. Many of you will remember that in 2018, we ran, I believe it was 13 different beta tests. All of them were focused on determining what are the best practices for digital marketing for a Floor Coverings International franchise location. And the reason that we started with digital was because we know that 94% of everyone who will do a home services job in North America this year will be online at some point during their decision-making process, choosing which partner they're going to use to perform those home services. So we wanted to make sure that we had a solid digital footprint and that we had the data to be able to recommend to franchisees the best way for them to build a footprint to capture the maximum number of that 94% of people who are going to be online. Once we did that, we shifted in 2019 for the focus of local marketing to be able to drive the maximum number of dollars to the bottom line of each business, to be able to create the capital required to launch in 2020 and ongoing investment in building our brand, which will really be the jet fuel to move us from $1 million to $4 million marketing programs for our franchise locations. So the pay per appointment program, which was released in October of 2018, was really the climax, if you will, of the programs that we had put together to try to achieve that goal in 2018 of building a digital footprint that allowed us to capture the maximum number of those 95%, 94% of home services customers that were going to be online during their journey. And it was really our first foray, go ahead, Katie, into landing something that you all have heard me say many times, and that is taking advantage of our biggest opportunity, which is getting all of the people in the organization rowing in the same direction. Because we truly believe that if we can do that, that's the opportunity to be able to dominate. And when you look at the results of the pay per appointment program so far, you can see that when we get large groups of franchisees rowing in the same direction, operating as one brand rather than one logo with multiple different locations, the results can be significant. And so as I wrap up here and hand it over to Katie to give you just the details of how the program works, I really wanted to highlight the three metrics that I think really illustrate the impact this program has had. We can talk all day long about leads, and we can talk all day long about appointments and all of the different things. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is how many jobs are franchisees landing, how many dollars are franchisees landing, and in the case of the pay-per-appointment program, how much impact is this having on those jobs and those dollars coming from the website or digital sources. So what you see on the screen is a year-to-date analysis of the percentage of increase in results for franchisees participating in the pay-per-appointment program and the network as a whole, those that are participating and those that aren't participating. So if we look at those that are participating, they have so far this year landed 53.1% more jobs than they did last year. The network as a whole has landed 15.5% more jobs than they did last year. The franchisees on the pay-per-appointment program have landed 63.6% more dollars in sales this year than they did last year, compared to 23.4% increase for the network as a whole. And perhaps the most telling statistic, other than those two above, which are the primary ones owners should be concerned with, the most telling statistic for me is that if you look at the improvement of the effectiveness of their website, meaning that category in InspireNet called website, they have had a 51.7% increase in the amount of revenue landed from website versus a 0.6% increase for the network as a whole. Now, if you do the math and you realize that we're comparing PPA participants and that PPA participants are also included in the category on the right, ultimately, that story says that as a network, we actually are negative if we take out the pay-per-appointment participants when it comes to new incremental growth in revenue from our website lead source. So when we think about this vision of moving from $1 million franchise marketing program to a $4 million franchise marketing program, and we think about the plan of building our digital footprint, monetizing that through local marketing to create the capital we need to invest in growing our brand, which will really be the jet fuel. And you look at data like this, we wanted to put together an opportunity specifically for people who weren't on the pay-per-appointment program to get more information, just to carve out an hour of their day to decide whether or not it's the time for their business to take advantage of this program that's producing these incredible results. So we put together this webinar. It's going to be led by Katie Penninan, who most of you know has really been the mastermind behind this. I get the opportunity to put the slide up on the screen and talk about the great results, but the one driving these great results is Katie, and I want to turn it over to her to present all the details of how the program works and then open it up for questions from you guys about how it might work for you and your location. Katie, take it away.
Well, thanks, Mark. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, okay, cool. Let's see. So what is the PPA program? I know there might be some people on here that are already on the PPA program. You're welcome to stay on. This is a good refresher. I know newer on the program. All right, whoever that was, I got it and muted. If you could also mute yourself if you're not speaking till the end, we'll do questions at the end. But what is the PPA program? It's essentially a marketing initiative that allows corporate and our digital marketing partners to manage your online marketing campaigns. As Mark mentioned, the goal is to create a digital footprint in your market, which essentially also allows you to free up your time to focus on local marketing and more important aspects of your business. We launched the program back in October 2018. We started with around 35 or 40 franchise owners, and since then we've done a rolling sign-up basis, and we are currently at 79, which is more than half the network. We've had a 95% retention rate of franchisees that have signed up for the program, and we've recently launched a Canadian version. There are 4 portals on the US program that aren't on the Canadian version, so it took a while to get that up and running. But we're excited that that's been rolled out, and we've had 4 or 5 Canadian franchise owners recently sign up as well. Mark gave you a little bit background on how it evolved, but we did an analysis last year and found that basically only 10 to 15 franchisees in the network were running a true digital marketing program. And what we mean by that is that they're consistently marketing on at least 5 or more flooring digital tactics online, and they're doing it in an effective way. We found franchisees were cherry picking lead tactics, for example, only advertising on HomeAdvisor, turning campaigns on and off. So we worked with our partners to develop this program where we manage everything for you, free of cost, and you only pay for the booked appointments. What is required of you to be on the program? There's several pieces. It's the first one, the outbound calling program. If we are paying for your leads, we essentially want a shot at booking those appointments for you. Secondly is the escrow system, which I'll get into a little bit more on a further slide. Secondly is the consent on your end to make changes to your digital marketing campaigns. The reason for this is we are making changes pretty much on a daily basis to optimize your campaigns, ensure you're getting the best exposure. So we can't be going back and forth to 80 franchisees to get consent every time we make a minor tweak to the program. And then lastly, we also would need a call tracking number that would be placed on all of your online lead portals, which would be your website, Google, and Facebook. The reason for this is we need to properly track where your leads are coming from for both billing purposes and also to optimize your campaigns and see what's working and what isn't. We get a lot of questions on that and why it's required, but it's essentially to make your life easier and our life easier on the reporting and billing side. So what's included in the program? To be a part of the program, you do need to advertise or market on every single one of these lead tactics on this slide here. It's not an a la carte program. We don't want you picking and choosing. Otherwise, it would essentially be your own customized digital marketing program and back to square one. So what's included in the program, we would pay for all your leads for these sources, and you just pay for the booked appointments. It is HomeAdvisor, Service Direct, Thumbtack, SEO services, which drives website traffic and booked appointments. We work with Choice Local, who is our SEO partner for the PPA program, and they would handle your directory listings, adding project photos to your website and Facebook, and they would handle any website updates. In addition to the SEO services, Choice Local would also handle your pay-per-click campaigns on both Google and Bing, and your Facebook ads. In addition to those portals, we also have CraftJack and Porch. And as of this week, we are adding another lead portal called Home Experts to the PPA program. So we're always looking at optimizing the campaign, making changes with our current vendors, and open to adding new vendors as well. So we're always looking for additional ways to drive more digital appointments to your market. So how much does it cost? Like I mentioned before, we would pay for all of your leads and management fees, and you would only be responsible for booked appointments from the digital lead tactic and any booked appointment from the outbound calling center. So like I said, 0 for leads. Our booked appointment fee from the PPA lead portals would be $150. But we do have a 10% rebate in there to take into account bad appointments. An example of bad appointment would be a cancellation, or you think the job is too small. We know not every appointment is perfect, so we do have that 10% rebate in there to take that into account, and we will bill you for $135 instead of the $150. In addition to that fee, there's also a $33 fee for any appointment booked by the outbound call program. This is a requirement for the program, as I mentioned, but if you beat the call center to it and you book before the call center, you will not be charged for that appointment. Some PPA perks, it saves you money. I haven't heard from one franchisee yet that this has actually been more expensive for them. It also saves you time. You're not following up with all these invalid lead requests. You're not worrying about how to run a PPC campaign and all the ins and outs. And ultimately, it lets you leave it to the experts. Our digital partners, they do this for a living. They want us to succeed. We have a model built with them that they don't succeed unless we do. So it's a win-win on both parts. Leave it to the experts. You only have one local marketing contact. That would be me. So any changes you want to make to marketing, it would all be through me instead of having to reach out to 8 different vendors. Who's your account manager? How do I do this? Do I have to call this number? Do I have to email this person? It's basically everything would be streamlined through me. Also, as we mentioned, it creates a digital footprint in your market. You would be on all these lead portals that we went over on the previous slide. You would no more follow up on invalid lead requests. We actually have this built into our partnerships with our partners. They either check over all of our leads that come in and do call tracking. So they really properly track this for every single lead that comes in. It's not something you need to worry about anymore. We can follow up on leads. We hear this all the time that people love that the call center is there on the weekend when their office manager is out of town. When their office manager is not working or in the office. Increase in digital appointments. I have not seen one franchisee who has gone down in appointments. Everybody has gone up in their digital appointments. And then consistent monitoring and optimization. I look at numbers basically on a daily basis. I have weekly calls with every single one of our partners. And we're always looking to optimize your campaigns and improve on what we currently have running for you. Some success stories here. First would be Toby out in Vancouver and Portland, Oregon. Since last year, he's doubled his sales landed from his digital sources. He went from 110 year to date to 230K. Brigitte Jensen in Oakville, Canada. She went from averaging 0 digital appointments per week up to 4 to 5 within 2 months. And this is excluding 4 additional lead tactics that the US has. Sammy out in Scottsdale, he's generated almost 2.5 times, digital appointments from 2018 to 2019. At this time last year, he only had 44 appointments. Currently, he has 106 first appointments. So these are some standout success stories that jumped out at us with some pretty obvious numbers that this program is working for them. Here's some testimonials that we have directly from franchisees that have sent me this. This is from the McMurrays out in North Tampa. We've been really happy with the results from the PPA program since we launched last November. Our lead flow has increased and the call center has done a good job on creating appointments. We still follow up with the customer, but it helps knowing that they're following up with the customers regularly in the first few days. As we all know, it can be frustrating receiving and paying for internet leads that are coded incorrectly or for projects we can't help or service. The PPA program has been great for that because we aren't paying for leads since appointments aren't booked. Though the cost for appointments is slightly higher for the cost of lead itself, it's turned out to be a much better investment of our internet lead dollars. We're spending about the same amount, but for appointments instead of leads, which many are not valid. And then here are a couple more. We have Deb DeFisser. She was the one that always highlights that she loves having leads chased down over the weekend when they're out of office and busy. Brigitte Jensen from Oakville. Just would like to share the following with you. When asked a client yesterday how he found us, he just went online, typed in laminate flooring, and we were the first to come up. You just have to let whoever know you're using that they're doing a great job. So those are just some quotes from actual franchisees in the program. So you're not just seeing the numbers up there, but if you ever wanted to get in touch with anybody from the program and get their feedback, I'm sure they'd be open to it as well. Like I said, there's up to 80 people on the network, on the PPA program currently. And we are looking for, if people wanted to get signed up. I know we had a lot of questions. So if we wanted to go over those, basically the next steps, if you wanted to get started, It'd be a simple sign-up form. You let me know when it's complete, and I would get moving on the setup of your accounts. Depending what lead sources you're currently using, it would take anywhere from 1 to 2 days to 2 to 3 weeks to be fully onboarded, but we could do it in a rolling process. So if some lead sources were ready, we could launch them ASAP. So we're very flexible. We have a lot of ways that we can customize the start of your program too, and we'll work with digital partners for the lead sources that you're not currently using to get it set up if there's anything we need on your end. So do we have any questions? Let me see the chat. I muted everybody, so let me unmute.
Hey, Katie, this is Mike. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I've got a question. What about, I know when you guys first launched the program, one of my concerns was, and I just wanted to sit on the sidelines, see how this thing worked. It's good to see some of the success out there. I guess the question is, what about, I don't do labor-only projects. I just stay away from them. I'm not going to warranty a job where the customer's providing material. We get a lot of that stuff. Now we're backtracking. We're eventually getting credits because we're not set up for labor-only type of projects. So I'm wondering how you guys handle that. And repairs, carpet restretches, just stuff we're not interested in doing. So I don't know if, are we still rigid in terms of how we set up like on Home Advisor? And I'm not familiar with Thumbtack because we don't use it, but I'm sure it's the same way as Home Advisor. So how rigid is, setting that thing up as far as categories of work, repairs, carpet restretches, labor-only type of projects? I mean, do we have flexibility with that?
Yeah, so initially when we did launch the program, we did have repair leads on and install only. Initially, we wanted to go in, see how many leads we could get, and then fine tune from there, which we have done. We are no longer targeting repair leads or install only leads unless the franchisee requests it. That does not go to say that they won't come in. We have found, for example, on Home Advisor that some customers that are repair leads are somehow sneaking through the form fill cracks, I guess you could say, and are coming in as repair leads. But for the most part, we are not targeting those, and we definitely do try to avoid them. Mark, do you have anything additional to add on that?
Yeah, so Mike, generally speaking, we don't, well, let me go back. We don't target install only. We don't target repair at all. However, we do have some of those leads come through just because the consumer takes the wrong path, and we work to get you a credit for those if you bring them to our attention. That's not a problem at all. So that's one. In terms of categories, which isn't your exact question, but is in the same realm, we have the ability to allow owners that don't want to do tile to turn off tile. But the requirements are you have to do hardwood, you have to do carpet. That's not negotiable. But tile, you can turn on and off, and then some of the other products as well and services, you can turn those on and off, like refinishing and things like that.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, because that was one of the categories I was going to ask about, because for whatever reason in our marketplace, Long Branch, New Jersey is the hub for the Brazilian hardwood installers, and they're all over Home Advisor, even though we're a bigger company and a little bit more professional. But these guys are doing the hardwood refinishing for the same cost we are. So that's just something I don't do on Home Advisor. Not to say I don't get a customer putting it as a hardwood job and we end up getting an appointment and find out later on. But we work to get credits on that. Same thing with the repairs. They put in there labor only. No, I'm not providing the materials. You call them up, you get an appointment, say, oh, no, I provide everything. I just want an installer. So you're saying we can work there. So we have an appointment book. We find out it's labor only. Well, we're not going to show up at the home. We end up canceling the appointment. That's, right now we're dealing with Home Advisor, getting those credits from Home Advisor. And we normally get them, but it's a lot of legwork. You guys are doing the same thing on your side on trying to, because I had the feeling initially you weren't going to really worry about having to do all that legwork to cancel appointments and you get some of these bogus leads that come in, but it sounds like you might be doing some of that.
So we are, and the strategy, and Katie kind of outlined this, Mike, and it's a great point. So if I'm 100% candid, one of the big reasons why this program is working so well is this is the first time as a company we have a large number of franchisees committed to maximizing the amount of opportunity they have online, as opposed to cherry picking and going onesie twosie, picking which tactics they want, turning them off and on, and doing all of that. What we're beginning to see is momentum building as a result of us having 50, 60, 70 franchisees running the same program for 5, 6, 7 months in a row. What that's given us now is the luxury to have a universe of appointments that, as Katie said, for the last couple months, we've been able to start saying, all right, we were at, let's just say, 1,000 appointments. We know that a good number of those weren't what we wanted. We can go ahead now and cut back to 850 and tighten the screws a little bit on Home Advisor and tighten the screws a little bit on Service Direct, because we're not as dependent on those. So it really does create that opportunity. You're right. We've gotten a little more targeted with what we can do, and hopefully we'll continue to get targeted, but we want to make sure we don't cross that line where we actually end up hurting the raw number of opportunities that our owners have to run appointments.
Cool. Thanks.
And Mike, inherent in your question, and I'm going to speak about it broadly because this is one of the things that I've been really pleased with on the program. So, fundamentally, your question was about specific types of leads, but at the heart, it's the same question that I'm sure many people on the call today have, which is, well, what about the quality of these leads? Have you guys increased the number of opportunities we've had by decreasing the quality and taking every single opportunity that's out there? That's one of the reasons why in my earlier slide, I actually didn't use the lead metric. I didn't even use the first appointment metric. We used the sales landed metric and the job metric, because I think that speaks very strongly to the fact that the quality of the leads are comparable to what you're getting currently. You're just getting more of them. And when we look at InspireNet data, the metric that I look at closely is the number of first appointments that turn into proposals, or the percentage of first appointments that actually turn into proposals. And what we've seen is that there's been an increase of 2.1% of that. So meaning 2.1% fewer first appointments are turning into proposals for people who are on the pay per appointment program. So what that tells me is that you'll notice a bit of a decrease in quality, but it won't be anything significant at all, because it's really at the margins when it's only 2.1% fewer. I believe it went from 16% for the entire network to 18.1% for franchisees that are in the pay per appointment program.
Cool. I guess my big motivation too, personally, just from a selfish standpoint, is slippage rate is so high. I've got, we're, call centers that we're on the outbound call system, they're scheduling some appointments, but we're still so high. So my cost per appointment, just if I take Home Advisor alone, is astronomical when you're at a 70 to 80% slip rate. And it's just frustrating. I've looked, well, if I'm paying $150, per appointment, I could end up saving, on that one tactic anyway, saving money. But again, we open our schedules up. I'm just looking to book more appointments is really what we're trying to do.
That's right. And that's what it's been able to do. And if we look at the math, Mike, and I looked at this maybe 4 months ago, I haven't looked at it since then, so this may not be 100% accurate. But when we started the program, the average cost per appointment from the tactics that we use in the pay per appointment program was $198. And obviously now it's $135. If the outbound call center books it, it's $168. It traditionally or historically, when franchisees are doing it on their own, there's about a $50 to $60 premium on those appointments, unless they are really, really good at handling calls and their digital marketing across the board. So there is a cost saving. And the reason we've been able to do that is because we've been able to go to our providers and negotiate as a brand. So historically, we've gone to our digital providers and said, we're going to give you an opportunity to go sell our 150 franchisees your services. What we're able to do now is we're able to go to them and say, we have an opportunity to bring to you a group of 80 franchisees, but you've got to play by our rules and the terms have to make sense for us. And obviously, our vendor partners on this have been very amenable to that. And that's how we've been able to decrease the cost for franchisees from that $198 per appointment to the $135. Any other questions?
Well, I got another one, and if nobody else wants to ask.
I have a question. Can you hear me, Becky?
Yep.
So we were on Home Advisor before, and obviously I manage the account and stuff. So this is something basically you guys are going to do on your end. I won't have to deal with Home Advisor.
So I would still be hands-on as the office manager. When I say that we're managing it, it's more of like your spend target and your categories and everything. You don't need to make any edits to your profile, but I would still definitely add like project photos and get reviews to it just to enhance your profile. But everything as far as generating the leads, we would handle that. So I would still log in, Becky, and try to generate customer reviews and get project photos, but everything else would be in our hands. So if you have any changes to anything, like say you want to add zip codes and unknown zip codes or something, you would just reach out to me about it.
Okay, so if we get like a bad appointment, then that's something that you will deal with or I'll have to deal with through Home Advisor?
So you would submit, if it was an appointment, you would give me the feedback. Depending what it is, we might give you a refund for it. So we don't refund for like cancellations or anything like that. But if you got an appointment for a scope of work, like say you got a tile appointment and you don't do tile and we're not targeting tile, you would get a refund for that.
Okay.
And the new escrow system that we built out will make it very easy for you to do this online and track everything and do requests and pull reports and everything. Yep. So it will be a lot easier than what we're currently doing.
I see. Okay.
So Becky, what you would do in that scenario is, just to give you the specific example, you'd log in to your account on the escrow system. You would see a list of all the appointments that you had been billed for. You'd find the one that you wanted to request a refund for and click a button and say, I want a refund and here's why. We'll then review those and get back to you with whether or not you're going to get a refund for that appointment. Again, transparently, this is an area that we've really got to button down because we're having, we've got to figure out what are the parameters for good and bad refunds. On one extreme, we have some franchisees that think if they arrive at the door and they don't have a check, that it's a bad appointment. And then we have other franchisees that say, hey, if they're willing to put it on my schedule, I'll hound them until they agree to meet with me in their home. What we've got to do is we've got to find a right way that allows us, number one, to be fair to the franchisee, and number two, to keep the financial, the fiscal ability for us to run this program. I'll tell you, for the most part, we have back and forth maybe for 3 or 4 appointments every couple of weeks. But for the most part, we're pretty well aligned with the franchisee. What I always tell them to think about is that if Home Advisor was going to give you a credit for it, we probably would too. But you have to keep in mind that we've already baked in an automatic 10% rebate. So instead of paying $150, you're paying $135. So we're only looking at those extreme cases that were really outside of what we would expect to be kind of standard operating refunds with the program. Does that make sense, Becky?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Becky, you're kind of
for example, I'm sorry, Katie. For example, Becky, one of the areas of, and I'll use the word conflict just to throw it out there. One of the areas of conflict that we're going to have to better define between the program and franchisees is that if your calendar doesn't have available appointments for 3 weeks, and we book an appointment for you 3 weeks from now, and 2 weeks later, that appointment calls and cancels because they found someone else to do the job, I'm not sure that's because it was a bad appointment. It's because we gave them 3 weeks to be able to change their mind. If somebody calls and books an appointment and they cancel that night, that's a completely different story. That's somebody that probably didn't know what they were doing or completely changed their mind. On that one, we'd give you a refund. We'd have to have a discussion as to why your calendar doesn't have availability for 3 weeks and how do we solve that problem on the first one. And so it's still a little bit to be defined, but at the end of the day, what we do is we look at the economics for the franchisees. It has to make economic sense for them first. And then a quick second after that, it has to make economic sense for the program as a whole.
Okay.
And we'll be sending out the information on that either today or tomorrow, correct, Mark?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, on the escrow system.
I guess in the case of, let's just take Home Advisor and Service Direct right now. I guess even though you guys are now going to be paying for the leads on your end, on the corporate side, we're still going to get the communication like we get today. Home Advisor, you know, the email from Home Advisor with the customer information, the notification that the lead got imported in. Since, you know, we still have an outbound calling center, they can call, but at the same time, we're motivated to call ourselves and book that appointment from that lead. Even though we're not paying for the lead, we're only going to pay if the appointment gets booked, and we can save the, you know, the $33 from the outbound call center booking those appointments. So I guess like with the case of Service Direct, now most of those are inbound calls, with the exception of people filling out forms. So we get that form that somebody fills out, we can pick up the phone and call, just like we do today with Service Home Advisor, try to book the appointments ourselves. We're just not going to get, you know, bills from them. We're just going to get bills from you or through an escrow account, I guess, on the appointments that are booked.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. It's a lot more
That's
streamlined.
correct.
One billing system, one point of contact, and everything's streamlined. You'd still be in the loop on all lead notifications. The only 3 portals that you would not get immediate access to the lead is Porch, CraftJack, and Home Expert. Just because the 3 of them are newer lead portals that we're working with right now, we can only send them to one email address. So they go to the call center right now. But once it's added to InspireNet, you do have access to all 3 of those lead portals as well. But nothing changes as far as, you know, Home Advisor, Service Direct, Thumbtack, all communication would stay as is.
So you're the point person on all this, Katie?
Yep, I am.
And are you cloning yourself?
Yep, there's a lot of me.
Okay.
Right, see,
Yeah, you know, it's been pretty amazing, Mike, and Katie will kick me when I say this because she works significantly long hours to make this program a success, but she's really done a great job leveraging the economies of scale. And it's the advantage of, you heard her say she has a meeting every week with the vendors. And so she has a really good rhythm where they get on the phone and, you know, if everything's doing well, we don't talk about it. We talk about the 3 or 4, or she talks about the 3 or 4 that are the outliers and saying, hey, you know, we saw a drop in what was happening in Monmouth County. What's going on there? What can we do? We need to make it, you know, we need to figure out how to turn the trend the other way. So she really has created an efficient program that allows her to get a lot of value out of her time and our vendors' time.
That's great.
All right, do we have any other questions from anybody?
What's the, you mentioned something in the beginning about this escrow system. How's that work?
Yeah,
You want me to take that one, Katie?
yeah, Mark, if you want to handle that since you're leading that.
Yep, you bet. So we've gotten a lot currently, as you may know, we do the invoicing through the pay per appointment program through the accounting department. So on the 1st of the month and the 15th of the month, or actually it ends up being like the 3rd and the 17th, but twice a month, you get an invoice for the pay per appointment program, just like you do for the outbound call program. And then those are ACH'd on the 25th of the following month. We've gotten a lot of feedback from franchisees that, number one, the reconciliation process is difficult. So they're having a hard time reconciling the 15 appointments they were booked for to the actual appointments in InspireNet. And then number two, the fact that they had one large ACH on the 25th was creating cash flow issues for them. So what we are able to do is we're just launching an escrow system, which hopefully will solve both of those problems. In essence, when you sign up for the program, we'll put a $1,500 charge either to your bank account or to a credit card, and that creates a balance in your escrow account. And then every 2 days, we'll debit your escrow account for the number of appointments that were booked during those 2 days. So, for example, if you have a $1,500 balance, and we booked 2 appointments at $135 a piece, you would go from $1,500 minus the $270 to $1,230 balance in your escrow. When your escrow account falls below $750, we automatically replenish it, billing the account on file, either your credit card or your bank account, to get it back up to $1,500. What that means is, instead of having a big invoice on the 25th, you can kind of eat the elephant one bite at a time throughout the month. And then we also are about to launch, as Katie mentioned, an online portal, which will launch, I believe, tomorrow, if not late today, which will allow you to log in and you can actually see which appointments were booked that you were charged for. And then if you want to request a refund, you just click a button next to that appointment and it'll automatically request a refund. So it'll make your reconciliation process a little bit better. Mark Mitev just asked if he can pay with the credit card. Yes, it can be credit card, or we can ACH your bank account directly. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah. I was just going to ask the same question because you mentioned credit card, so I didn't know if you had a credit card on file. I thought you said something about every 2 days. You're saying you're just checking it, but once it goes, but $1,500 in the account, once it goes below $750, you're just replenishing that difference to get it back to the $1,500.
That's right. So we do the leads. We credit or we debit your account for the leads every 2 days. But ultimately, we only charge when it hits $750. Appointment.
Your appointments. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Katie, do you mind giving up your share real quick?
Yep. I'll do that.
Let me show you something, Mike. This might help. So I'm going to share with you guys, we've got a memo that's going to go out to franchisees very soon, and it'll include this in it. But this is an example of what the ledger might look like. You all can see this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you would sign up and you'd initially be charged $1,500 to whatever billing method you wanted. Then the next day, let's say we ran it and you had 3 appointments at $135. and 2 of those were booked by the outbound calling center, you'd have a $405 debit, which is 3 times 135, and a $66 debit, which is 2 times 33. So your balance in the escrow after that would be $1,029. 2 days later, we've booked 2 more appointments for you. You have a debit of a $270. Both of those appointments were outbound call. We have a debit of $66. That means your balance is $693, which is under $750. So we're going to charge $807 to your billing method to get your balance back up to $1,500, and then just repeat that over and over again. In the new online system, you'd be able to log in and actually see all of this information, which will make reconciliation a heck of a lot easier for you, I think.
I mean, you'll see it actually who the appointments were with and who the outbound calls were with.
That's correct. So when it says
Okay.
2 or 3 PPA appointments, you could click on that and you could actually see who the 3 were. And if you want to ask for a refund on one of those, you could just click and ask for a refund on one of those.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
Yeah, and honestly, this was one of the only big restrainers, I guess you could say, or roadblocks in the PPA program. And we have this system resolved now, so it's super exciting. We're excited to launch it.
I guess if we're on board currently with Chair 10, the preferred partner you're using for the digital, like the pay-per-click or the just our SEO type of work, is Choice Local.
Correct. So you would basically cancel your services with Chair 10, since the management fee and everything and ad spend would be included as part of the PPA program. So you'd be saving money on that end too.
Gotcha. What about like reputation monitoring that they do that's part of their package? Is that part of the Choice Local package, or even part of this, this thing that you're doing, or is that something that's a little different? Because, that's a little different program that we get from them as far as it compared to SEO.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily have review management included in the SEO program. That said, once you're on the PPA program, I would have access to all your online properties, and I get a notification every time you get a review. So if there was a good or bad one that came in, I would be on it. and we would know through WebPunch. Mark and I get a daily report from the online reviews that are generated. So it's not necessarily a part of the PPA program, but being on it, I guess corporate would be closely monitoring it. And if we did see something, we would get WebPunch involved to help us out. And that is something we are looking at down the road later this year to do something with Choice Local as far as the reputation management piece. Mark, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Yeah, so I would say in the short term, Mike, I would probably keep that going. However, again, it's another area that, number one, reviews are critically important to SEO, and they're becoming more important every day, especially as voice becomes the predominant tool used to search. Reviews are just much, much more valuable because people search by voice. They want the best. And so the only way that Google can give them the best is by looking at reviews. So, we all sometimes will say, show me a Mexican food restaurant nearby, but typically what we're seeing is that more and more voice is show me the best Mexican food restaurant nearby, show me the best restaurant nearby. So reviews are becoming more powerful. We recognize that. We will be leveraging the economies of scale, I would say probably in Q3, to roll out a new solution for the entire network, similar in context to what we've done with the pay-per-appointment program, where we're able to get more for less because we're operating as 80. Hopefully at that time, there'll be 100 or so people on the program, and we'll be able to do more on that front. But for now, I would just kind of keep it as is.
Yeah, because I think it's more than just monitoring the reviews. They're also going in and, reposting a Home Advisor lead on our Facebook page, doing some other things besides just that. So, I guess in time, maybe some of that could be phased out, but didn't want to lose some of the...
Yeah,
some of what we have right now,
The only ones we would recommend canceling for sure would be the SEO services that include like directory listings, any pay-per-click campaigns that you're doing, through Google, Bing, or Facebook ads. Anything else is just, a nice supplement to your SEO. We do recommend.
Sure. Okay.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions?
Well, and we'll
Katie, you want to
recording and also the slide deck too, so everybody has all the content and sign up links and everything as well.
Yep, and then make sure we have access to the sign up link. So that'd be the next step, right, Katie, if they want to sign up for the program?
Yep, and if you do sign up, just make sure you email me and let me know, because I do not receive a notification for some reason. I've tried to change that, but we cannot figure it out. So I'll put the sign up link in the chat box right now, just there. But yeah, basically next steps if you wanted to get signed up would just be to complete this form. It literally takes 5 minutes max. Email me and let me know, and then we would get started on next steps. All right, cool, Mark. I'll end the recording, and then once it's wrapped up, can you send it over my way?
You got it. We'll do it.
All
Well,
right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Katie, thank you for taking the lead on this.
Yep, thanks, everyone. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks.
good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.